Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the organisers for doing the honour of asking me to address you today. When I was pulling together some material for this talk today, I came across an interesting quote from the 1980s in Richard Reid's book of Buildings, and I'd like to share it with you. It goes as follows: everyone is affected in one way or another by buildings. We're born in them, we live in them, we work in them, and more often than not, we die in them. Yet the layman probably knows less about them than anything else that affects his life. However, times have changed, ladies and gentlemen, and this address is about my personal journey of realisation and that of my colleagues in the Justice family, that our institutional buildings matter and that energy efficiency matters in those buildings in which we spend our working lives. Here in Ireland and throughout the Western world, the penny has finally dropped for policymakers. We increasingly realise that energy costs in running commercial and residential buildings is an issue which must be addressed. The National Energy Efficiency Retrofit Programme is a crucial and very welcome initiative in upgrading this country's building stock, because so many of our public buildings are old and less energy efficient than their modern day equivalents. To paraphrase the famous French architect Le Corbusier, we must now look on the humble office building as a machine for living and working. Like all machines, buildings are not simply the sum of their parts. They are a complex system in which the different parts interact with varying levels of efficiency. This understanding of how energy is utilised and consumed within buildings is crucial. It's a necessary task. Unlike other machines, cars and fridges, for example, the buildings in which we live, work and recreate and their carbon footprints last far beyond our working lifetimes. The building stock of our Justice Department and its several sister agencies is extraordinarily varied and very heavily used. It includes a very wide array of buildings for a wide array of uses. For example, every night over 10,000 people lay their heads on pillows in buildings we own or lease. 10,000 people. Prisoners, asylum seekers, people who are in controlled situations, 10,000 of them. Twice that number work in our institutional buildings every day, our employees, stretching across the different services in the justice sector. Our department's own headquarters at 94 Stephen's Green is a building with an extraordinary history. It started out as a brewery in the 18th century, then it became a nonconformist church, then a commercial bank, and now its downward moral trajectory continues today as our operational base. Buildings in our portfolio, ladies and gentlemen, range from the very old, some 48 courthouses from the 19th century, which have been designated as of local, regional or national architecture importance, to the very new, such as the Criminal Court Complex at Parkgate Street in Dublin and our Prison Service headquarters in Longford, in which Mr Parlin had a key hand. Both those two latter buildings are state-of-the-art buildings in terms of energy use. Some of our building stock is iconic. You think of the Four Courts, Garda headquarters. Most of it is central to our sense of identity nationally and locally. Attitude is everything, ladies and gentlemen, in responding to life's challenges. Energy consumption in buildings is hugely affected by the attitude and behaviour of their occupants. Any energy initiative in the workplace needs to ensure that the users modify their behaviour to promote the rational use of energy through an awareness of how that energy is used and through encouraging the elimination of wasteful practices. One such project undertaken, while not part of a retrofit initiative, which was undertaken within the department itself, and I think it's worthy of special mention, is the initiative referred to there in the overhead at Burgh Quay. Burgh Quay is where the Irish Naturalisation Immigration Service, INIS, is headquartered. The building itself is a hybrid. It's the former headquarters of the Irish Press newspaper, and it's a mix of Georgian and modern architecture. It's occupied by approximately 400 staff, with most of the space in use on a dawn-to-dusk basis. For 6 days a week. It also has a huge public office with heavy footfall throughout the working week. Following an audit undertaken by the Office of Public Works, it became clear there was significant scope to realise energy savings in the building. An energy committee was formed of staff volunteering for the task who had a particular interest in the area of energy efficiency. Early on, the committee decided that the way they would persuade colleagues to change their approach was through persuasion and communication. They used emails, posters, stickers on the lift, in-house newsletters to encourage you to adapt new habits, simple things like switching off computers, other electrical appliances and lights when not in use. Crucially, though, regular feedback was also given to all staff on the progress being made and the extent of the savings being achieved. On the building management side, our efforts centred on customising usage times of heating and air conditioning to align those with our building occupancy and to minimise instances where the two systems were conflicting one with the other, cooling and heating at the same time, for example, as was mentioned by the CEO. In a 2-year period, the energy usage of this rather large building has decreased by a remarkable 45.5% to 143,431 kilowatts per hour. As a result, CO2 emissions in the period in that building have declined by a similar percentage, by 45.2%. Getting the staff on board early in the project proved invaluable. Awareness creation in any project of this type is a key consideration. Individual values and behaviours really matter. The personal commitment of all our employees to the goals of energy efficiency and its associated environmental benefits were vital in assuring our programme succeeded. We had one particular product champion, I don't want to identify him by name, but he's an esteemed colleague who sold the initiative to his supervisors and colleagues, and all credit to him. Finally, in projects such as these, the process must be ongoing with regular reviews to maintain the gains achieved and to push for further improvements. One of the problems with energy efficiency programmes is that it can be very hard, especially for staff, to appreciate the positive effects. Regular feedback was given to our staff in Borough Quay on the progress being made and the extent of these savings achieved. The SEAI and the Office of Public Works have been invaluable partners with us in the next phase of our story. In my case, this came about from a conversation I had with the indefatigable Brendan Halligan, the chairman of SEAI, and I asked him and his CEO, Professor Owen Lewis, would they come over to my office one day in this former brewery and bank that we operate from, and would they have a chat with leading figures from the Justice family of agencies and the Office of Public Works, who are very much our partners in the state management. A lot of initiatives flowed from that single meeting, that hour in our offices. Just to take a few examples, the prison service, led by its director, Brian Purcell, has since worked with the SEAI to manage and improve the energy usage. He has about 4,500 customers on the pillows every night. The prison service energy management efficiency drive, which was inaugurated as a result of that dialogue, has had an impact right across our estate. Energy audits have been carried out in 7 prisons. All those energy audits have been reviewed to identify low-cost options to reduce energy consumption. Energy management training has been provided to participants and managers from across the whole estate. The Building Energy Rating certification for all Irish prison service buildings is ongoing, and this process will be completed by the end of the year. All of our energy consumption data in the prison's estate, electricity, oil, natural gas, has been collated for 2009 to enable compliance with the new directive on energy consumption annual reports from January 2011. The prison service has also established a national subgroup to deliver on energy performance reports and to identify energy projects utilising funding support from the SEAI Public Sector Funding Support Programme. Potential projects considered to date include enhanced building energy management systems, solar hot water installations and biomass boiler heating installations. The court service, led by CEO Brendan Ryan, again with the assistance of the SEAI, has carried out a number of advice, mentoring and assessment programmes in courthouses nationwide. During 2009, the Sustainable Energy Authority carried out site visits to courthouses in 8 locations. These site visits have resulted in a heightened energy awareness, comparative reports on energy consumption between similar buildings, and the installation of new and adapted controllers for heating and ventilation. The court service tell me that subsequent to these site visits, significant energy savings have been realised at each and every one of the court venues involved. In relation to the Garda Síochána, the OPW, on behalf of Commissioner Faulkner Murphy, is managing an energy awareness programme at 14 of the larger Garda sites in the country. Energy officers and energy teams have been appointed at these locations, and we now have plans to install energy monitoring systems in 24 additional Garda sites over the next 2 years. 12 Garda sites also participated in SEAI's Advice, Mentoring and Assessments programme in 2009. Each Garda site received an energy assessment and mentoring from the agency and from an energy consultant appointed by them. I've been told by the Garda Commissioner that, based on the energy consultant's reports, each site surveyed will achieve an average of well over 10% energy savings in the very first year of adopting the higher priority recommendations. The Garda Síochána also made a successful application under the grant scheme and was provided with a grant support for the implementation of 20 energy efficiency projects at Garda facilities. Those projects are all over the country. They involve changing light installations, insulation, heating works, air conditioning, installation of heating and lighting controls. In the short term, ladies and gentlemen, significant ongoing long-term savings for the state and the taxpayer have been identified in sites all over the country. The importance of developing long-term strategies. While individual energy efficiency initiatives or projects are, of course, very important in their own right, it's also important that individual initiatives form part of a wider national strategy. That's what today is all about. The Garda Síochána has worked now to establish a national environmental strategy for the organisation. Work on this strategy is continuing. There's a big emphasis in it on waste management and recycling, which themselves save energy. And once approved, the Garda Síochána intend to implement this strategy over a 5-year period from the end of this year. Pending completion of the strategy document, a number of initiatives, interesting little ones, have been undertaken by the Garda Síochána in the areas of energy, waste and water management. Just to give you an example, Garda Headquarters and the Garda Training College recently installed intelligent water management systems which manage water use within the complexes and help to conserve their stock. They've saved €13,000 already in the first few months of operation. In September of this year, a new recycling and waste management scheme was initiated for Garda Headquarters to develop a fully integrated waste management system, incorporating all the systems in the depot. During the first quarter of operations, the recycling rate in the Garda Headquarters has risen from a very low base to a better than industry average of 72%. This is highly significant, and it is an example for other institutions in the state's organisation. Some of the little bits that are in it I think are very interesting. For example, organic waste from the kitchens, garden areas and indeed the Garda mounted unit, the horses, are all collected on a non-charge basis and are regenerated into carbon-clean biofuel. A baler has been introduced at Garda Headquarters. These are small things, but they make a difference, compacting all the paper waste that's generated there. We're expecting that the savings in Garda Headquarters alone will be €25,000 in the first year. Moving to a conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, our department and our colleagues in the prison service, Garda Síochána and the court service and across the justice estate, from quite modest beginnings, have become enthusiastic supporters of our national energy efficiency programmes and in steering our country towards a new and sustainable energy future. The opportunities are huge. The challenge is primarily one which this conference serves today, of developing a shared vision. Most of these developments would not have happened in our estate, the estate for which I have a responsibility, at all, without the inspiration and drive of our friends and colleagues in the SEAI, our partners in the Office of Public Works, and most important, the staff at every level in our organisations. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that our little story will fit into what will be a wider national narrative. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing you, and I wish you all well with the conference.